Hi, Mike Delisio from Solo Mode Games. Today I'm going to do a solo session of the 1 to 4 player game Ex Libris, designed by Adam McIver and published by Renegade Games. Ex Libris is a worker management set collection game where it does some familiar things in slightly different ways through unique player powers and variable locations. It's a really interesting game, and hopefully you'll get a pretty good idea on how it plays once we go to the table. So why don't we go ahead and do that. Okay, here we have the solo setup for Ex Libris, and the setup is similar to multiplayer, but there are some key differences. The biggest difference, I believe, is that in the multiplayer game, you start with one location that's definitely going to be available, and then you're going to deal out a number of other locations depending on number of players, and then you're going to burn through all but I believe one of the or two of those locations and then add more to get back up to a kind of a starting level depending on number of players. In the solo game, you remove all of the locations that are not solo compatible. And you know that a location is solo compatible by looking for this small symbol, which hopefully is going to come into focus here. Maybe. There's a symbol here. There it is. And if it has that symbol, it's compatible for the solo game. If it doesn't, you remove it from the box. And so there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 solo compatible locations. You shuffle them randomly, put out 6, and then there are 4 that are going to be drawn later on. What you do is at the end of every round, I'm going to choose 2 of these locations to be removed from the game and then draw from the top of the deck 1 more. So every round you'll have 1 less than the round previous, and in the solo game you're going to have 5 rounds. That's another key difference. In the multiplayer game, the end game is triggered by the number of cards that you play into your library, and depending on the number of players, whoever has that certain number of cards will trigger the end game. In the solo game, it's going to be 5 rounds regardless, and there's difficulty levels built in. The beginner difficulty level, which will be the one that I do, since this is actually going to be my first solo game of this, so I figured why not record my first attempt. I have played multiplayer, but this is my first attempt at the solo. The difficulty level is the number of cards that you discard at the end of each round. And the reason for that is that all the cards that get discarded throughout the game are going to be used to determine the score of the public library. What you're trying to do in the solo game is you're trying to renew your, you're trying to have your librarian license approved, and to be able to do that you have to get a better score than the public library, and I'll explain kind of how that goes as we get going here. And so the number of cards that you discard obviously is going to be giving the public library more and more potential scoring opportunities. All right. And so the gist of the game is it is a worker placement game where you're placing your 3 assistants and your 1 special ability assistant, which in my case is the trash golem. I randomly drew this character. Here's my home library, the Junkyard of Enlightenment. Can we get that? We're having trouble picking it up. There it is. The Junkyard of Enlightenment. And the Trash Golem, his special ability is I may take and or shelve 1 card that would be discarded from each location as it resolves. And this is a particularly good one, I think, in the solo game, just because this means fewer cards will potentially get discarded to the public library. Okay? Also, some other things that were done for setup is that on particular locations, they'll have you deal cards. The Mystery Shack here says to deal 4 face down, so I've done that. The Bookseller says to deal 4, and those are face up. You can only place 1 assistant per location. That is also different in the solo game, so that's something to keep in mind, is that you can only keep 1 assistant per location. All right. Most of the rules I'm going to try to explain as we go, rather than give a bunch of rules at the beginning. But just a couple of things that I do want to reference is that randomly at the beginning of the game, as part of setup, a prominent works category was dealt out, and in this case, the prominent works is the historic volumes, which has this yellow hourglass symbol. So at the end of the game, if I have more of those symbols in my library than the public library, I believe I get 15 points. That is correct. I get 15 points. If not, the public library will get it. Also, a random category was drawn for the banned book category, which is the corrupted codices, which looks like a thematically appropriate banned book. Looks kind of scary. And so you don't want those in your library. I do want those in the discard pile because that's going to count against the public library at the end of the game. For every one of those in the library, either mine or the public library, you're going to assign -1 point penalty. Okay? Also randomly, I drew my focus, and my focus this game is the reference texts. So I want to get as many of these as I possibly can into my library because I score 2 times the points for those. There's also a public library focus, which is face down. I don't want to shift this too much because I don't want to accidentally reveal, but right down here is one of the categories, I don't know which one it is the public library focus. At the beginning of the second and fourth rounds, I'm going to reveal one of these. There's 2 cards here to help me kind of narrow down what that may be. But to be honest with you, I'll probably be so focused on my own library that I'm not going to worry about it too much. Just to give you a quick anatomy of the card, I was dealt 6 cards randomly for my starting hand. Okay? When you're looking at these cards, there's really only the top that you need to focus on. All right? Speaking of focus, let's hope these get into focus. Here we go. In the upper left, you'll see a letter, okay, in this case, B, and some numbers. In this case, you can see 5, hopefully you can see it there, 5 out of 10. In this case, what this means is that there are 10 Bs in this whole deck of cards. And when you place cards, when you shelve them, as it's called, into the library, you have to keep a couple of things in mind. You want to keep them in alphabetical order, all right? So A's before B's, B's before C's. If you have multiple B's, you want the lower numbers before the higher numbers. So if I played this B 5 out of 10, if I played another B in that shelf, after it, I would want it to be anywhere from 6 through 10 out of 10. You'll also see the categories along the top there, and those are the categories that will be used for the end of game scoring. So already I know that I don't want to have a lot of corrupted codices. I do want to have a lot of reference texts because those are my bonus, and I also want to have historic volumes because that is the prominent works category. Okay? And so each of these locations do something different, and I will explain them as I go to them so that you can kind of get an idea of what I want to do. Okay, so the first phase is the preparation phase, which has already been taken care of. They have been placed out. So now it's the placement phase where I'm going to place my 4 workers. I do also have a spot on my home board which allows me to draw a card or shelve a card. All right. So the interesting thing here is that many of the locations here are basically asking for you to discard cards, and so I hesitate to do that because by doing so, I'm putting more cards into the discard pile for the public library. All right. Okay. So, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the wishing well. It says, discard X cards, then draw X plus 1. You may shelve one of the newly acquired cards. So basically, I can discard any number of cards, draw one more than that, and I can immediately shelve one of them. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to discard this. I'll discard this H. It's got a corrupted. Well, boy, no. It's got that actually has 2 of the prominent works. So I'm going to discard this D. Well, boy, now that I'm talking about discarding things, and this has 2 of my focus, so I'm not sure I want to discard that one. Let's discard this P, because this has 3 of the kind of mouth symbols that don't really do anything. And so I think I'm going to discard that one and draw 2. Okay, so start a discard pile over there that hopefully is not going to be too big. I have 2, basically the deck is so large it's split into 2, so I'll just grab 2 of these cards. Oh, that's actually nice. I drew an A. Okay, you'll have to take my word for it there. I drew an A and a P, and I can shelve one immediately, so I'm going to go ahead and shelve that A. All right, now, when you start shelving books, there are some rules. You have to place them alphabetically, as I mentioned. You don't have to, but you definitely want to, okay? A new book card must be shelved orthogonally adjacent to a previously shelved card, okay? You can never have a bookshelf more than 3 horizontal rows tall, so you got to keep that in mind. And you also want to be thinking about shelf stability. Basically, the way shelf stability works, and it's described a little bit here, is that the largest kind of rectangle that you have, which is considered a stable group of cards, that includes your bottom row, is going to score you 1 point per card. So if I had, for example, 9 cards, a 3x3 grid, including the bottom row, that didn't have any cards hanging off the edge, I would get 9 points for that. So that's something that you need to keep in mind. Okay, so my next card is going to have to be placed orthogonally adjacent to that first A card. Okay? And I have a B in my hand, so I'm feeling okay about that. All right. Okay, so I think what I'll do now is I'm going to go to the Mystery Shack. Here it says name a category. Peek at all the mystery cards, reveal and take any or all cards matching that category. Return the remaining cards face down, and you may shelve one of the newly acquired cards. So, already one thing I did that's not great is that when I shelved this A, it has 2 of the banned book symbol. So that's minus 2 points at the end of the game. That's kind of a bummer. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do to try to counteract that is I'm going to name the reference text category, which is my focus. So basically I'm going to look at these cards, and wow, only 1 of these cards has that matching category. However, I really lucked out because I may shelve it immediately, and look at this. I got another A, and it's 7 out of 7. My previous A was 5 out of 7, so that worked out tremendously well. So I go ahead and I place that there. All right, I've got 2 more placements. I think what I'm going to do is just go to my home board, which allows me to take or shelve a card. All right, or draw a card or shelve a card. I'm going to go ahead and shelve this B, 5 out of 10. It's got a historic volume, prominent work on there. Okay, so I've so far shelved 3 cards out of my hand here into my library. One nice thing is that every one of these books, it's all flavor, but every one of them are uniquely named and they fit the actual categories. It's really clever. Okay, I've got 1 more placement for this first round. All right. The bookseller would allow me to take a card from that location and then shelve it, and I almost want to do it just because that's 1 less card that's going to get discarded at the end of this round, but boy, none of those cards are terrific for shelving. They're just really not, so I don't think I'm going to do that. Shelf Mason's Guild, I can shift. I don't want to shift any of these cards. So I really, I'm thinking I want to make sure that for only one of your assistants may be present on a location tile. I'm wondering if that counts towards my home tile as well, if that's considered a location tile or not. If it's not, then I could place again on my library tile, as it's called. Yeah. That's not a location tile, so I believe I could put another one here, but I don't think I'm going to. Okay, so I'm going to go... Oh, boy. This is doing a lot of discarding. I'm not really a fan of that. The gambling den is basically you name a unique category. You reveal 4 cards from the deck. You take all matching cards. You may shelve one and discard the rest. So it's very similar to what I did with the Mystery Shack, but you're drawing from the deck instead. Okay. So I think what I'll do instead is I'm going to go to the donation center. Here it says discard 1 or more cards, then shelve up to 2 cards from your hand. So I'm going to discard, let's see here. I'll discard the S, and I'm going to now shelve. It says I may shelve up to 2 cards from my hand. So I'm going to shelve this D, and then I'll put this H here. All right. Okay. So, end of round 1. I have placed all of my workers. And now we're going to go to the cleanup phase. All right. But before, I believe I'm going to double check, but before we go to the cleanup phase is when I'm going to be able to use the ability of my golem here, my trash golem, during step 2 of the resolution phase. Yes. Okay. So that basically is going to be now, because I'm kind of in step 2 of the resolution phase. I get to take and or shelve a card that would be discarded from each location. Okay, so let's see here. This works. I can shelve this H right there, and then these are going to get discarded. I can take this I and shelve it, and then discard those. Okay. And that is that. Okay. And then I return these to my home board. Okay. Now I'm just double checking because I do change a little bit what happens in the solo game. I must now choose 2 location tiles to eliminate from the game, and then I'm going to put 1 up here. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is get rid of these. I'm wanting to get rid of because these get discarded. Whatever doesn't get used gets discarded. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of both of those. And then I just bring out 1. And it's Ye Old Book Swap. All right. And so now I've got to deal 3 cards there. All right. Okay, so that's the preparation phase. I have to discard a card. Only 1 because I'm doing the beginner. Okay, and now I'm going to place my assistants. I need to start drawing some cards. Well, let's see here. Let me do that. I'm going to go ahead and draw a card. Give me an N. I drew an N. All right. All right. Let me shift these up a little bit. I feel like I need to draw cards here. Although I can place this K. This K would be a good one to place. Okay, I want to read this. Shift Mason's Guild. Shift any number of adjacent cards in a single row of your library, any number of spaces in one direction. Let's see here. I want to kind of read that and see if I understand exactly what it's saying. Yeah, I may not split my bookshelf into 2 separate groups. Okay, that's what I needed to know. I can't shift them in such a way that it would leave 2 separate groups. Okay. Well, let's do this. Let's go to the gambling den. Player whose category... Oh, I have to name a unique category. So let's name the reference texts because I do want to get more of those out there. I'm going to draw 4 cards. 2, 3, and 4. I take all matching cards. I may shelve 1 and then discard the rest. So I'm looking for cards that have, well, I did pretty well there. 3 out of these 4 cards has reference texts icons. The question is, can I shelve any of these right now? I mean, I could, theoretically, but is it smart? I don't know that it's smart to shelve any of these cards yet. I don't think it is, honestly. So I'm just going to keep those in hand. All right. I will go back to my home tile and I'm going to shelve this K, 1 out of 3, right here next to the I. All right. And then my final placement is... Oofed. Okay, I'll go to the wishing well. I'll discard 1 card. I'll draw 2, and I may shelve 1 if I choose to. Let's get rid of... Boy, all of these are pretty good. Boy, I really actually don't know if I want to go there because I like all of these. Well, this is tough. Okay, I am going to discard 1. I'm not really thrilled about it. I'll discard my U. I'll draw 2. Hope one of them is one I can place. Okay, I can do that. I can place this G right here. Unfortunately, it does give me a banned book. All right. Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Okay, so that was my placement phase. Now we're in the resolution phase, and I can take and or shelve one of these cards and then discard the rest. I think what I'll do is I'll keep this R and discard those 2. Okay, and then take the workers back. Oh boy, well, already something I missed, although I don't think at the beginning of the second round, I was supposed to reveal this. So I know that the library's focus is not the fantastical fictions. That's okay. All right, so I know I've got one more piece of information there. Okay, all right. So now it is cleaning up. I have to remove 2 of these. This may be a mistake, but I'm going to get rid of that Shelf Masons Guild. And I'm going to get rid of the book swap and bring one more out. This is the book collector. Discard any number of books from your hand and or library. For every 2 books discarded that match one of the book collector's categories, which I'll be drawing here in a moment, you may shelve up to 2 drawn. Okay. So let's deal one here. There's only 2 categories there. Reference texts and whatever the mouth one is. I don't know off the top of my head. Okay. All right, so this is round 3. I have to burn a book there. Okay, for the preparation. Okay. Here we go. Placement. Let's see here. HK. All right, well, let's see. I would like for every 2 books discarded that match 1. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go to the donation center, discard 1 or more. Well, boy, it's all these discarding. That's where they get you. You don't want to discard in the solo game. So let me think. Okay, so I do want to draw. I'm going to go ahead and draw. Do I want to draw? I really want to get. Okay, I'm going to go to the wishing well, discard a card. I'm going to discard this C, which really does me no good at this point. And I draw 2, and I can shelve 1 if I choose to. And I drew 2 C's. That does me absolutely nothing. Okay, well, at least I'll be able to use those to discard. Which I'm giving to the library, although at least one of these that I'll be giving to the library has the banned book category in it. All right. All right. I'm going to take a risk at the gambling den, and I'm going to name the historic volumes because I'd like to make sure I get more of these out here. Okay, so I draw 4 cards, all matching cards with that category on it. I'll be able to keep and discard the rest, and I can shelve 1. Okay, well, I did pretty well again. 3 out of those 4 cards has the prominent category, the historic volumes. Unfortunately, none of these are really ones I'm thinking about shelving. I went K. Although I could put a P here and then put another NP. Yeah, I think I might do that. Okay, so I will shelve this one. I'll shelve that right there. Also, at the end of the game, any cards I have left in my hand are going to go to the public library, so that's also a little bit of a bummer. Okay, let's go to the donation center, discard 1 or more cards, then shelve up to 2 cards from your hand. So let's go ahead and get rid of all of these. I'm discarding 3 because they're going to, well, yeah, they're going to go there anyway. And I can shelve up to 2 cards from my hand. So I think what I'm going to do is shelve this P here and this N here. All right. And I've got one more worker. So I think what I might do is just go ahead and place on my home and place this queue right here. Okay. All right. So that was the end of the third round. And now what I need to do is I can collect this book. I can shelve it, although I can't. No good place to shelve it. I should have probably considered that instead of placing that in, because I really would love to get that in there. It's got a lot of my symbols on it. Okay, but I'll just take it now just in case. All right, there's no other cards here that get discarded. We take these back. All right. And we are at the beginning, right? Yeah, I have to get rid of 2 tiles first and then bring one more out. This will be the beginning of the 4th round. Let's get rid of the book collector and get rid of the gambling den. And we've got the Librarian's Lodge. I can move one of my previously placed assistants from a location to one of my home action spaces and activate it. I could also swap a card from my library with a card in my hand, another card in my library, or to any allowed position in your library. Okay, well that's interesting. Okay, so that goes there. I go ahead and burn a card, and I reveal the monster manuals. It's not that, so let's see, his category is either going to be the, let's see, the purple or the green, I believe. Oh no, the green is there, so it's got to be the purple. Purple category is his. All right, so I want to be careful about giving him that. All right, so 4th round. Okay, here we go. We've done the preparation, and now we're going to place. Okay. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and place here and draw. I got another A. That's not going to do me any good. I could place it here, honestly. It just won't count towards my... Yeah, why wouldn't I do that? I haven't been thinking terrifically well, because I think I can play... I've been so focused on my shelf stability that I can go ahead and play that card there. It's just not going to count towards my shelf stability, so that actually is good. Okay. Okay, so let's... I don't really... Yeah, I'm going to... Okay, I'll go here. I'll discard my K card, which is a shame because it's got 3 of my reference text on it. I draw 2, and I may shelve 1. I got a D and an O. Okay, so I can shelve this. It's not going to count towards my stability, but that's good. That's fine. And that's all I'm going to do there. Okay. Then I'm going to go here again, shelve this A card here, which is at a 1 out of 7, so I can play that before the 5 out of 7. And then for my final placement, I'll go to the donation center, discard 1 or more cards, then shelve up to 2 cards from your hand. I'll discard the D, and I'm going to shelve this R and this T here. Okay. It leaves me with a Y still in my hand. And that is the placement phase. There are no cards for me to draw for my trash golem, unfortunately. I take my workers back. I remove 2 of these. So which one do I want to keep? I'm going to get rid of this. and I'm going to get rid of this. So now I've got the wishing well and the garbage dump, which is going to allow me to name a category, search the discard pile, take any card containing it, and shelve it if I choose to. I've got to burn a card at the beginning of this last round for the public library. And now we go to the placement, and we're going to find out how well we do here. Okay, so maybe what I'll do is I'd love to get something between this G and this H. I wonder if there's one in there. I'm going to name the, I know technically I can't, I'm not supposed to see any of those, and I really can't. You're only supposed to be able to see the top. I'm going to go ahead and name, let's see, how many, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of the historic volumes. I'm going to name that as my category because I'd love to go through there. And if I can get something that fits here, that's either a G 4 or 1 or 2 through 4 or 2 through 5 or an H 1 through 5 with that category, I'll feel pretty good. So let me look through here really quickly. I'm looking for the yellows. Actually, I'm going to look through for the G's and H's first. Yeah, it didn't work out. Okay. But let me look through those. I have a B. I've got another A that I can't place. I've got a C that I can't place. A B I can't place. An H that I can't place. A U that I can place. Aha. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and place that right there. Okay. And let's see. Let's go ahead and place here to shelve this Y. I'm going to go ahead and draw a card. And then I will place my golem here to discard that card, draw 2, and hope that I can shelve one of those 2. Alright, and does not look like I can do so. That was a risk because now these are both going to the public library. Alright, okay, so I cannot place either of those. No, I can't. Okay, so that is, if I understand, let me double check myself. End of game, I discard all of the cards remaining in my hand. I'm going to be putting those into several columns so that I can easily see and count all the category icons, and then I'm going to use this application board for final scoring. I'm going to do that off camera and I'll come back and show you how I did. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, this really came down to the wire. Here was my completed library with a nice stability bonus of 15 points. I had 15 cards that are including the bottom row that were in a complete kind of rectangle there. You lay out all of the discards. This is the public library, and here's what you do. First of all, we were correct that the public library's focus was spells and potions. Oh, there we go, take my word for it, spells and potions. And we go through this score chart, okay? The way it works out is that you add up all of the different numbers of this particular category. So I had 9 of the corrupted codices, the public library had 6. That turned out to be the banned books, so I knew that, so that's going to be minus points. I had 9 of the fantastical fictions, the public library had 21. The historic volumes, which was the prominent works, we both got 13, which means since the public library wins all ties, they got 15 points out of that. If I had one more symbol of the historic volumes, that would have made all the difference. Monster manuals, 13, I had 10, they had 20. My bonus category of reference text, I had 13, they had 6. And their public libraries bonus, they had 10, I had 12. So here's where the scoring comes in. Sorry about the little bit of glare we've got here, it's a dry erase. I got 15 points out of the shelf stability. That doesn't play in with the public library. There's the 15 points that they got for the Prominent Works Award. That's what got me right there. We subtracted the points for the numbers of that banned book category. The categorical variety bonuses, what you do there is basically you take, without counting the banned books, taking that out of it, you find the category that you have the least of and you multiply it by 3. So in my case, it was the fantastical fictions. I only had 9 of those. So I multiplied that by 3 and I got 27. The public library, their lowest, not counting the banned books, was their spells and potions. So they got 30 for that. And then our library focuses, you multiply times 2. So I got 2 times that. So 26 points. They got 2 times that, which is 10. You add those up and we ended up with a tie of 59. But as it says right down there at the very bottom, the public library wins all ties. So by the closest of margins, on the easiest of levels, the public library foiled me. I did not get my librarian's license. I guess I'm going to need to go through a little bit more work. I'm going to have to get a little better at shelving and categorizing these books before I apply again for my license. But anyway, I hope you got a pretty good idea for how you play this game. This is really, really clever. I love the theme. I love the art. It's got some familiar mechanics of set collection and worker placement and player powers, but it does it in a way that is just unique enough that it doesn't feel like anything I've ever played before. So hopefully you got a pretty good idea on how to play it, and I hope that you enjoyed it. I thank you so much for your time as always, and have a great day.